This is a book by Jill Konrath that came out in the earlier 2000s, but still has a lot of points that's very relevant. It's considered very much kind of like a B2B Bible for how to approach the very large accounts and how to get into them. Now, basically, one of the biggest takeaways you can get is that it is not easy to get big corporate clients. We often go as salespeople and realize that we are in a sea of salespeople sailing into this perfect storm, and we're attempting to try to capture the giant. We're attempting to try to get this large account and be heard throughout all the noise. And although it is very difficult, it's not impossible. But one of the first things we have to change is our attitude towards it. A big problem we have a lot of times looking at a big corporation is we see the decision maker as this guy, as the king, the royal man, super powerful, with an army of gatekeepers that's impenetrable that we can never get to. In reality, they really look more like these people. They're just regular folks, just like you and me, all of us. They just happen to work for large organizations and happen to have the ability to make decisions on their behalf. But in order to sell to them, we really need to understand the biggest difficulty that these people have, is that they are constantly under pressure to do more, to do everything better, and to do it all faster. And as time goes on and years goes on, it doesn't matter what stage of the economy is or if it's downsizing or not. No matter what, it seems that corporate decision makers seem to have more and more and more and more put on their to-do list every single day. And because of that, they are incredibly busy people. Now, this is the most important point to remember when dealing with these individuals, is that because they are so busy, their biggest enemy is wasted time. So to them, a waste of time could be anything from listening to a sales pitch that they see as just a self-serving salesperson talking to them, or even implementing a system that could be better for the company, but in the end is going to add so much more to their workload that it's not worth it. Because of that, our biggest enemy as salesperson is the status quo. And our job in the process that we have to go through is to challenge the status quo and to prove to them why they should strive away from it. So the first step to do this is to really adapt your approach. They're not going to listen to you if you're a salesperson. You're going to want to completely remove that idea of you in their minds. Instead, you need to approach them as a business consultant. And the only way you're going to do this is first and foremost to really research the industry they're in, to research their company, and to understand what it is that's important to them, what issues they are dealing with. In this stage, it's not good to be shy. It's actually quite bad to pretend to be their friend and try to have small chit-chat. They don't have time for that. You really need to get to the root of what their issues are and what the ramifications of those issues are so that you can position yourself with your expertise and what you have to offer as an actual business improvement. So instead of coming in as a salesperson trying to sell them something, you're coming in consulting and trying to improve their business for them. Now, in order to even begin to start speaking with these individuals, you first have to develop an entry strategy. Generally, it's recommended you have multifaceted, you're going after a certain number of contexts, but in the end, the more research you do prior to beginning your campaign, the less cold the entire approach will be, which is better because the less cold it is, which means the more likely they are to trust you and give you the information you're going to need in order to do it. So for one, you have to find the easiest point of entry. We see these big corporations as big, massive organizations, but in reality, you can often find a lot of smaller businesses within them, smaller units, or in certain cases, depending on what you're selling, get focused on a particular team. We here at EyeQuant focus very much on a niche of conversion rate optimization teams and user experience teams. When you go for there and approach that, then you only have, say, 10 individual people to try to reach out to. From there, you're going to want to define who the main decision maker is. Chances are that person is going to be highly elusive. It's going to be hard for you to get to them, and it's going to be hard for you to reach out to them. You can attempt, but you're probably not going to be able to actually speak to them. So instead, you go and pick 7 to 10 contacts related to them who would understand the business issue and business problems that they're having that you'd be able to have discussions with. The most important thing when you're looking at this stage is that you are really finding people you can bring value to. Targeting and when going after big companies is not a numbers game. It is really quality over quantity. You're much better finding the few prospects within a company who really understand what need your product can fulfill and going after them. And then your only goal with that is to start the discussion. You're really just trying to talk with them and start the consultative phase to figure out what it is that's going on. Now, here's some points for talking to them is, again, corporate individuals, I think people in general are busy. They don't have time to infer what you have to offer. You need to spell it out. The people don't care about your product or service. They don't care about tools. They care about results. So don't talk about your tools. Don't talk about your products or processes. Talk about the results that you can to offer them. And in the entire time, make sure to tie it back to their business and what they're trying to achieve. Now, your most important tool in all of this is very much going to be your value proposition. You're going to want to explain clearly the tangible results. So oftentimes, if you can use specific outcomes, let's say you worked with a competitor and able to help them overcome a problem, or anybody else who had a similar issue, and you can specifically share the metrics that they've used and then offer them as a referral, they're far more likely to trust you, earn your trust, give you more information, continue the discussion, and make them want to learn more, which is the key to getting the referral, which is going to move you along the chain and get you to the actual decision maker. Essentially, the overall game plan for getting into a big company is focus and narrow your attempts, and narrow your strategy, get your foot in the door, learn from each interaction, experiment a lot, kind of plays off of the other strategies you've seen from the other books. Really experiment to see what is resonating with your market and what is resonating with people that seem to have those issues. Pick up the crumbs along the way, and then eventually you will reach the final decision maker, get that decision, get the holy grail, and depending on what you can sell, maybe increase the orders throughout the company or instead expand on their network to more and more companies.
Any questions? I got one.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, so is it not only selling to big companies, but also selling to investors, for example?
This was written very much from the perspective of just selling into corporate clients. So from her experience, she developed most of it working for Xerox, selling in, and then after that decided to become a sales trainer. So this is looking at a large organization where you very much want to find an individual division that can use your product and then focus your pitch to them.
Yeah, well, I can very much relate to the book, and because also this is what I'm facing kind of like on a daily basis. Is the author giving some solutions when you have like a group of people that you need to attack, and obviously you need to focus on one person that can be your hero for the next ones later, but is this enough? What is she saying in this case? Like, you need to tackle many people?
Yeah, her recommendation very much, why she always said is you have at least 7 to 10 contacts, is actually it's more powerful if you can get the entire team on board. So the goal is to basically, of your 10, find the easiest person to reach who's going to be responsive and then show value to them, so much so that they refer you onto the line. And then it's even more powerful because now when you speak to their boss or their colleague or somebody even in a different division, they are sort of the champion for you. Yeah. Any other questions?
Is the book also covering things or scenarios such as you approaching 7 or 10 people, like 2 or 3 liking your product or liking your value, and 2 or 3 are saying no, completely not what we like to have?
No, actually it doesn't. No, it doesn't highlight. It would be an interesting thing. Like when it comes to really the objection handling, her perspective was try to educate and show value from the beginning to basically prevent instead of trying to cure in those situations. But if it came to the regard that 3 people in the company loved it and 2 didn't, there wasn't any particular advice on how to overcome that.
Is there any information about the risk of trying to be a consultant when people are very, very junior? Because I see them, I'm leading a sales team at the moment, and I see it a lot of the times when people don't know what it means to be a consultant, they ask questions and they increase the value without knowing what they're doing because they read everywhere and they are trained constantly.
Yeah.
anywhere on asking questions. So is there anything about how to avoid that or where to start other than doing research?
Well, basically, her recommendation is to actually become an expert. So I think if the problem is if you don't actually know the market, if you don't actually know the business, that is what's going to end up hurting you in the end. It's not really pretending to be a business consultant. It's actually to develop yourself to the point that you can offer the advice that a consultant would offer.
Okay, but at the same time, it takes a lot of guts, to be able at that level that you can offer something to a senior director.
Yeah.
You have to be quite confident.
Yeah, I think that's part of sales is is growing and learning, and I think it's part of like I said at the end, it's okay to, in the very final page of the book, she says you're gonna fail. It's okay to fall flat on your face. You really need to experiment to learn, and I think that's just part of sales. That's a part of business.
Awesome. Any more?